So I've just got back from golf. Played pretty well. Didn't score too great, but it is what it is. First game back for a while. But I'm going to start to do these more random videos. So I'm going to do USD CAD. All right. We're going to break this down from Friday, how you could have traded it, things to kind of look out for. So I'm going to try and do 3 of these every day. I'm going to do them in the evening and then release them after, and hopefully it's things that you can watch out for. So, obviously, those of you who don't know, Canada is heavily linked with oil. It's got one of the, I think it's got the 3rd largest oil supply or storage in the world. So it's very, very heavily linked with oil. Hence, you can obviously see here oil, starting to rise here. All right, this is a daily chart. So from say Wednesday, Thursday, the 5th and 6th of August, you can see here, it's really started to tumble to the downside. So obviously if oil is pumping, then CAD is a good one to kind of hop onto. All right, so how could you have traded this on Friday? All right, so first things first on any chart, if you want to mark up any, and I'd recommend doing this probably once a week, but you can mark up monthlies. All right, so potential monthly like area, you could mark up say like weeklies, but it's not going to help you too much in regards to obviously what is happening. So intraday, as always, very, very easy. You want to mark the previous daily high. Remember, we're obviously acting as if we're going to trade this on Friday, and then the previous daily low. All right, and so that is Thursday's high and Thursday's low here. All right, we've then got a little bit of daily support here, but it's not clean. So if you wanted to go down the time frames, you could, and you could, for a bit of extra safety, you might want to mark up this potential area here. Say for example something like this, because we know that price is driven up here, rejected. As soon as it's broken through, it's come back down, retested this area, and then continued to the upside. All right, going down the time frames here, you can see here, so Thursday, so this is obviously Friday's Asia. All right, relatively slow. The big move happened in London, and obviously we would have had this monthly level marked up here just because it's had a lot of support. You can see here price rejected, pushed away. You could even push this down a little bit further if you wanted to. Rejected, come up, rejected, come up, rejected, pushed through, retested, and then continued. All right, so that would be your kind of overall target here. Now, you would obviously have 2 options here. Well, you've obviously got lots of options here, but obviously, if we are looking into Friday, so if we go draw this, so this is Friday's price action here, yeah. All right, from here. All right, so we have woken up during Asia. All right, we've woken up to this here, yeah. All right, brilliant, right, great start, because we know that we've got all this heavy support here. All right, we really like that we've broken through on a 2 hourly. All right, we've woken up 6 in the morning. We've obviously got our overall, target here, which is our monthly. All right, so, all this kind of rubbish here, all right, that is what you want to see breakthrough, yeah. All right, so even no matter how you kind of look at it, we've obviously broken through here, yeah, right, especially on a lovely 2-hour time frame here. 6 o'clock, obviously opened at 8, so you might have obviously waited for this 2 hour to close. All right, so it would have closed at 8. All right, it's closed here. Now you got a couple of options here. Right, you either wait for a retest up, depending on obviously how much risk you're kind of looking at. But obviously you're also going to be looking at oil here, so if we highlight so 8 o'clock's here, we're going to be highlighting this kind of area here, yeah, all right, and let's mark this area in, like, say for example, yellow. All right, and so if we are marking, this area here, because price is obviously tumbled, yeah, all right, we want to see now. There's lots of things that you can do here, and it all depends on oil as well. If we look at oil at 8 o'clock, so 8 o'clock Friday morning, it was flying high. If we look at it here, it is high, flying high. And obviously, if we look at the dollar at 8 o'clock, what is the dollar doing? It's dropping, yeah. Right, so you might anticipate there's more chance of obviously 99,500 being hit than there is 100. All right, so you're already going against the dollar, but obviously all just gives you, after this push here, with a weaker dollar here, we've got a couple of options. We can either trade off of this candle here, targeting this. Remember, this level here, all right, is monthly. I've explained why. All right, so there's a couple of obviously entries. You could wait for an entry to come up into this area. All right, so you could wait for price to come up here, come up back down here. All right, you could enter straight, so straight off the back of that will be option 1 here. You could enter straight off the back of this candle here. All right, stops would have to be a nice 1 to 2, so it would have to be something like this, a little bit tighter, but obviously that will be option 2. Both would have worked out. All right, or you could go down time frames, potentially even like Fibonacci, but as you can kind of see here, we've got very, very strong oil. All right, we've got very, very weak US dollar. We've also crushed through this area here where prices struggled to kind of break through previously, and we've closed strong here. All right, we've closed really, really strong. So I'd be tempted to kind of enter straight off the back, and go obviously with it, in regards to that kind of area here, so that's obviously what I would be looking to do. We would be coming from obviously this area here, and then just trailing this right the way to stop. So I'll refresh that again here. So we've obviously chosen this monthly level here, because if we zoom out, you can clearly see even back here prices come up, retested, rejected, come up, blasted straight through, retested. You can go back and back. It's a really, really good kind of monthly area to kind of look into testing. So that would have been my kind of ideal trade for Friday, if we obviously traded USDCAD, which we don't, but obviously we've broken through. Broken through all this mess here. Worst case, we're going to come back up and retest it. So it might even be something that you scale into. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this. I'm going to do this a bit more on some random pairs. I'm going to do 3 every evening, and I'll obviously bring those out during the day. So yeah, hope everyone's having a great Saturday, and yeah, hope you have enjoyed it.